Hello friends, Mel Jeffcoat here with another day of a daily dose of the medieval philosopher Ramon Lull. And if you are new, you can take a look at the earlier videos to get a bit of a background. But today what I'm going to do is just do a brief overview of the first of the figures that he uses in his system, his thinking system, which he calls his art. In the Middle Ages, art referred to technique, basically. So this is his technique for thinking and for reasoning. So I've showed this in the first video, but this is figure A, which in Lull's system is one of the two main figures that you use. And this version, his version, is a representation of God, essentially. So you'll see around the outside, you've got the letters B through K, no J because it hadn't been invented yet, and there's a word under each one: goodness, greatness, eternity, power, etc., going all the way around. And each of these words is one of the attributes of God. Now, it's not meant to be exhaustive. There was an earlier version of this system that had 16 letters and attributes around the circle, and that was too complicated. People complained about how complicated it was, so he simplified and brought it down to just 9. Throughout his life, he used other dignities, he called them attributes of God, depending on his context. So these are not meant to be every possible description that you could use for the divine. But one thing that you need to know about Lull is that he had a Neoplatonic sort of worldview. Now, you may have heard of the parable of the cave from Plato. It is in the Republic, which he talks about the world we experience being like the shadows on a cave wall that are not the real thing. There's the light, and the figures that actually make the shadows are the real thing. So Plato thought of he called it an ideal or a form, which was this sort of perfect version of everything that we experience. And that in his worldview, that was reality. And everything that we experience in the material world was just shadows, reflections of that ultimate reality. So Lull had a similar worldview. He called the ultimate reality God because he was Catholic and that's what you did. But you need to know that because he uses this figure A that I showed you as the standard that he anytime he comes up with a logical statement in his system, which we'll get into that as we go along, if it contradicts this idea of God in some way, then to him, that means it's not true. Now, I think it would be possible to update this a little bit to allow for people who are not medieval Catholics or even Christians. What you would have to do to create your own figure A is to come up with 9 concepts that would be your guidance. The 9 concepts that are at the highest level of being that you can imagine and that you could use to be your standard that you measure other things against. Like, how do you know that something is good? What standard are you applying to that thing to know whether it's good or bad, or any other value judgment that you might make? Now, this is really experimental. I don't actually have any idea what that would necessarily look like. Right now, I'm studying Llull as he wrote it, trying to get into his worldview. And so for now, I'm taking it exactly as he wrote it, and we're seeing where it goes. But I think that in the future, it would be possible to make it more useful for people of different religions, different worldviews, and still be able to get the use of this system. But we'll talk more about that later. This is all very exploratory, and we'll see where we get. So that's it for figure A today. Tomorrow I'll probably talk about figure T, the other major one. Might have to do that in a couple videos, but I don't want to get too deep into these just yet because we'll go deeper later. Just sort of familiarize people with what we're even looking at. So that's it for today. Thanks for watching, and until next time, keep exploring.